So, fortunately for all of you, I have a very special guest here today. Joining me today is Randy Seavers, whom many of you may well know from his active role as a panelist on Dear Myrtle, whose Mondays with Myrt occur every couple of weeks, and is a delightful way to review what's happening in genealogy, new facts and ideas, and a new perspective. And Randy has been a panelist on Mondays with Myrt for, I don't know, you're going to have to tell us. Plus, he's going to be my very
2014, I
special
think.
guest. Wow. Okay, there we go. More than 10 years. And he's going to be my very special guest on Thursday. And as I run out of oxygen, I'm going to turn it over to you, Randy, to tell us a little bit about what you have planned for us. Go ahead, please.
Well, what I have planned is I've been working on using AI assistants to enhance my family stories because I'm an engineer and I analytical, but not too instinctive or emotional or whatever like that. So yeah, so uh, I have a lot of information, like many genealogists, about my ancestors. And my thought was, well, I'll write a genealogical sketch and just put everything that I know about a person into that sketch, and that'll be good. Well, of course, then I figured out what my relatives really want. Um, they don't want a 500-page book of the ancestors of Randy with sources and only data. They want stories. That's what families really want. They don't want to look at my family tree or interpret my family tree to try and figure something out. They just don't want that. They don't want to read my blog every day. Just how it is.
Truth.
Yeah, what they want is to hear stories of my life. So I've written a book. I wrote a book. I had, I got 18,000 blog posts. And so I was able to gather some of those into a book using Storyworth last year. My daughters gave it to me for Christmas. And then I was able to use more or less the same stuff in my Heritage, My Stories book. So there's a couple of ways that people can do things like this over time. One story a month or one story a week or something like that. So anyway, but the younger folks, they don't really want books. They don't want things. They want audio and they want video. Okay, so how can I provide that? Well, there are ways, and obviously, Barbara, you can do this much better than most of us. And I thank you for teaching us all this. They do like hearing relationships of famous people. So the 5 grandchildren have all grown up knowing, eventually asking, are we related to the King of England? Are we related to Charlemagne? And are we related to President Obama? And the answer is yes to all those. But they're very distant cousins, of course. That's the way it goes. So being an engineer and not being too, I have grammar problems. I don't have spelling problems, which is good. But the genealogical sketches I did based on the results that I have, the research I've done, I write them very plainly. John was born this date and in this place, and his parents were these, and he had 10 siblings, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just summaries
Mm-hmm.
of an event, and so it's boring. So how can I make it more
Gaps, as I
engaging?
call them. Yeah.
And I got 2,500 identified ancestors. It's so consequently, when AI came along, I thought, okay, what can I do?
Ding, 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 ding.
It summarizes extremely well. You know, it summarizes extremely well and is pretty smart and sensitive and insightful and hallucinates sometimes, but that's okay. You have to figure that out. And so what I've done is I've come up with this ABC biography thing. The ABC is Ancestor Biography Creation. Um,
Marketing
and
man, too.
so, so it's a way to use AI to enhance the data I have.
Yeah.
So, so
You know what I loved about this from the very beginning was it speaks to a core message I'm always trying to get across, which is it is fundamentally important for every family to tell their stories in whatever form they can. And, not everybody's a writer. Not everybody's an artist. Not everybody's a musician. We have our talents. We have our ways. But our stories are important. And you may not be the ultimate writer that will document the family story for all time. Kind of guaranteed you're not, because you're going to miss all the stories that happen after you. So finding ways to succinctly pull together what you do know in ways that can be valuable to the next generation are so compelling. And I love the way you're doing this in ways that are capturing the fascination, the interest of the current generation. That's not necessarily us, right? It's the kids. And that's just brilliant. You were going on. I interrupted you, please.
thank you for all of that. That's well said and better than I can do. Uh, the incentive here. Um, and so the ultimate product is really maybe audio and video, a YouTube channel, uh, audio with podcasts or something of that nature. Uh, I'm not the only one doing this. There are a number of others who have their own system. I'm thinking of Denise Allen,
Mhm.
who is starting a class next week
Great.
uh, on writing, and her method is has another acronym, STORY, STORI, and and Carol McCullough down in Australia has a something similar and has been doing it longer than the rest of us, I think. Uh, Thomas McKenty from the genealogy world uh, has an ancestor sketch uh, process, and
Mhm.
he's talking about it. In he has a webinar coming up on family tree webinars sometime soon.
Uh-huh.
So it's it's you know it's coming to the fore, and so
Right.
we're all in the middle of this, and so
Right.
uh,
You know, in many ways, I'm reminded, and this is a little bit in recognition of the passing of one of my all-time heroes in the tech world, and you might know this name yourself, Bill Atkinson, who was foundationally important to the introduction of the Macintosh and many of the user interface experiences that we know and are so ordinary today. But in those early days of personal computers in the early 80s. There was this development of user groups. There was this fascination of look what we can do. We saw the same thing with the introduction of the web. And oh my goodness, look what we can do. Or let's face it, bulletin boards before that, which you were very active in. And in each of these, there is an enthusiasm of look what we can do.
mhm,
And I think as each one builds its own best practice, its own twist on a solution, it's really important to celebrate all of those different approaches and the very fact that it is so important and so transformational. This isn't something I'm particularly good at, and I'm thrilled to be around so many of you who are diving into it. And I'll be, as I try to do all the time, including references to all of these in the notes to this recording And then, of course, as you go through the presentation on Thursday, if we've missed anything, please feel free to drop it in the chats. One of the glories of this platform is that it allows us to create an open community that we can share and learn from. Welcome, Dan, our genealogy assistant, also a panelist at Mondays with Mert. And Dan, be sure to drop your Substack in there. Don't be shy. It's fine. It's not like we're competitive here. This is an environment where we can all share in the joy and the learning because we are expanding our storytelling capabilities. We're learning from each other all the time. And I love the way, Rand, you've picked up on some of these ideas and shared instantly where you're getting these ideas and how you're bouncing off of them. Tell us a little bit about that.
I get most of them just by thinking, what can I add here to this boring genealogical sketch? And so, what about poems? What about songs? Can I write those? Can AI write those for me? I'm not a poet. I'm not a lyricist. So, how about a podcast? Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be smart enough to do that, I think.
Oh, yeah, you are.
But there are AI things that will do it. Okay. Can I make images of scenes? Can I write memoirs for my ancestors? Yeah, I can. Can I write?
Exactly right.
Can I write historical fiction about my ancestors? Perhaps put it in a book at some point, a children's book, something. All of these things, in addition to learning about how people lived, what they did, what are the occupations ensue, the medical conditions. I just did one this week on, what locomotor ataxia is. Well, my second great grandfather had that. It's a syphilitic condition, and consequently, big surprise. Okay, how did you get that? We pretty much know how you get it. And it takes 20 or 30 years to manifest. And he dies in 1885. So wow. Okay. So I have no clue how he got it, and it doesn't really matter. But I wrote a blog post based on AI on how on what it is and things like that. So AI now is mature enough that if you tell it don't hallucinate, it won't. In general,
Really?
but you have to, yeah. But if you ask it for something it can't find online, and not all of them are online, like Claude
Accessible.
doesn't go to the internet,
Right.
but and deep research in deep search in ChatGPT does, and Grok does intuitively, and CoPilot does intuitively, and Perplexity and Gemini. So Gemini, being Google, has access to everything. So when I use Google search now, I get AI responses. So it's been 2 years that we've all been kind of dipping our toes, and then finally some of us are swimming well, I think.
Right. Yeah. And you're teaching the rest of us how to swim. And some of that teaching, by the way, is, class structure of do this and do this.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it is inspiration
Mm-hmm.
to go after a particular thing. I'm one who just learns by doing. I get itchy in classes. I can't help myself. I was a terrible student. Let me go play. And oftentimes I try to explain to people that part of what got me into all of this is the realization that family storytelling doesn't have to be a written narrative. My grandmother wrote a written narrative, and it's wonderful. It's full of begats, no notes, interesting. But probably a few hallucinations. No, we're not related to Betsy Ross. But the having access to what can be done opens us this world for family storytelling. Is a film a story?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Is a ballad a story? Absolutely. So it just opens this world of storytelling. So I've had this idea for a while. You've just told me how to do it. I have this fabulous quilt my grandmother made for me, as I've posted about it a few times. And I've always envisioned the project to make a children's story out of photos of the quilt panels. And I can sort of think of the narrative, but gosh, I am not Margaret Wise Brown. I love, all of her children's stories. I can't do that. But I could ask for a little help,
Mhm.
hum a few bars and let AI fake it for me and sort of see where that story goes. That's the kind of thing that suddenly then makes my family storytelling accessible to a new generation, even if they're still in diapers. And that's kind of cool.
So that's pretty much what we'll talk about on Thursday, I think, is how to do it, what it is, and how to do it. And so I'll demonstrate it with going online and doing AI prompts and things like that, and show you the finished product for one of my folks. I'm doing these. I'm doing 2 biographies a week now. I'm doing 1 poem, song, and podcast a week using AI and posting them. And I'm doing now 1 memoir a week. Uh, Grandpa, tell me stories about your childhood and about what you did for work and what your biggest challenge was, your best accomplishment, advice for the grandkids, and
Yeah,
so if I do that consistently for a number of ancestors, they'll get the idea. And
exactly.
and AI is really positive. Okay, it unless you ask it to do something negative, it'll only do positive stuff. So my prompt for the song and the poem are write a poem to celebrate the life of this ancestor, and then
Yeah.
attach a PDF. And so the biggest challenge for everybody is getting to the genealogical sketch stage, that you have a sketch that that helps you tell the story. You need
Mhm.
information. If all you know is that they were born, they married, they died, um, and you don't know where they're buried, and you don't know what church they were in, you don't have a whole lot of information for a story. Um, Now, an AI chatbot can make that up. You know, uh, you know, uh, it's not hard to do, but you don't know if it's right or not. So I'm trying to make things as accurate as I can. I review everything that comes out, and so it's fun. This has been a challenge. We've had a number of technology advancements in genealogy and family history, and this is one of them. That we don't have to be a storyteller to write
Right.
to get stories of our ancestors. Uh,
Okay.
it's historical fiction with real persons and real situations in real time in a real place. Um, and nobody will care if it isn't 100% accurate, but it may just spark an interest in
Right.
the person that you're talking about
I think
and the
that's really,
time.
I think that's really, really key because at the end of the day, you could write the best stories all day long. It doesn't matter if nobody else ever reads it again. And taking the time to what you've done is leverage scale, leveraged computing power and scale to make such a dent into this archive of ancestors that your descendants can't help but notice. and the appreciation and respect that you have for the tools that you're using, what they're capable of, and can do, is not only has the potential of getting the attention of your descendants, but well, look what you're doing for all of us. As Jane Chapman just chimes in, the song you posted really got my attention. The reference to the different kinds of things that you've explored in a very structured way has inspired me to a project I'm yet to do. But in each of these, it's getting people to really care and think about the shoulders that we stand on, all of those people that came before us and the struggles that they've had and where that takes us going forward. I think that's something we all share as family historians here. I love your
And
little sign, "I am a cousin."
that's from like 10 years ago when we had a conference, and AJ Jacobs, he is AJ, uh, wanted to get the biggest genealogy family uh, reunion together. And so he had a couple thousand people in New York City. And he came to the conference, and we all got a sign, and we all held it up and picture with AJ. And he's a funny guy. He's a great guy and a writer. His books are fascinating things. I don't know if you ever read them, but they're fascinating. One little thing to mention here is if you haven't done a family tree and you don't have a big software family tree, I have 74,000 people in mine. But if you don't have that, okay, and you're not able to do it because you're not analytical or you're not a software person or whatever, and you just want to tell a story, there are a billion profiles in the Family Search family tree that can be used. And
Mhm.
you can take that and make a PDF of the information, okay? And I'll show this on Thursday, and use that for the person as long as they have enough information in their profile. Now, Family Search Family Tree doesn't have living people, and so if Grandma and Grandpa are still living, they aren't going to be in it. If they aren't living, they might be in it if someone like you and me have put it in. Um, so, uh, or you could do it with an ancestry tree or a wiki tree profile or my heritage tree or whatever. Uh, those are all available and none of them have information on living people. Okay, so I'm not in. You can't see me in it, and I can't see you in it, and and if your grandma's still living, I can't see her. So there are ways to do this, and then you deal with historical events, uh, social history, things like that, and you, you can see my product, and I you know uh, since I have the sketches, I'm having to rewrite the sketches because I don't have enough in them for some of the families. Um, I don't have siblings, for instance, in my sketches in general,
Mhm. Mm.
and consequently, I'm rewriting them as I do the biographies now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and
Yeah, the position in a family order, a birth order is really insightful, about,
can be,
how someone
hmm
comes out. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
That's absolutely wonderful. As you're describing this, I too have most of my family tree in Family Search.
mhm,
One of the reasons is that my grandmother often reached for the book. My grandmother in 1948 self-published one of these books. There's a lot of people that did do this, and because it seemed like a good idea at the time,
mhm,
about 10 years ago, maybe, I did a scan of it and published it to the Internet Archive. There was a chapter of living people, I excised that and published it to the Family Archive. And because there were 100 copies of that book, and I only know about where maybe 15 copies are, the rest are out there somewhere. And presumably all with extended cousins, unless somebody gave it away at a thrift store. And yeah, wow. Most of those, what's in Family Search is very consistent. Is it necessarily accurate? Still not completely sure. In fact, I know of some little rusty spots.
Mhm.
Um, but as a result, I can really see where those profiles are and how they can be built on for more stories, as well as debunking. As I said, the story about Betsy Ross in my family is one of the simplest ones to know if somebody is a cousin, because they too were told that story, which is absolutely not true. And it is absolutely not true because it was a different Ross, and she never had any Ross descendants because, he exploded. Different story. They never had kids. But each of those kinds of things, if she even made the flag, which is a different topic altogether, across the board, finding ways to get people interested, to pay attention, and to know what you're doing. I love the way you talk about these as celebrating a person. It's not saying that's what one should do. You're saying that's how you're using this tool. And that's a really important difference.
Mhm.
My grandmother's book presented that these are the lives, and everyone was wonderful. They all lived productive lives. I know that wasn't true either. And what's wonderful mean for that matter? They lived lives and we're descendants, to the extent that we know that to be true.
And some are very flawed, and
Yeah.
but almost all tried the best they could. They did the best they could, and they faced all these hardships and overcame them or succumbed to them. Uh, and so it's worth it to celebrate it, and just getting it into some format that at least mentions them and perhaps some achievement in their lives. I mean, being a farmer was tremendous, a tremendous job. Being a housewife was a tremendous job. Uh, you got 8 kids to work with. You
Yeah.
you got to cook and clean and do all the things you have to do and teach the children and uh, take everybody to church and things like that. And that was the traditional way. But
Right.
until the 19th, 20th century, late 20th century, that was what everybody did basically. And yeah,
Right.
there were rebels. There were people who weren't normal, you know, but that was what it was. And
Well, getting into their heads to understand what the circumstances were, to use, as a human being, as you produce these materials, you can then be looking at it at scale in that larger context to
Mhm.
be able to understand what the forces were. The American Civil War, for example, was extraordinary and extraordinarily difficult on all sides. No
Mhm.
question about that. What and why takes historical context to dig into and then draw meaning from to take it into future generations. It doesn't mean stories need to be scrubbed of inconvenient truths. And, there we take it forward. I love what you're doing at scale because it makes it possible to really build on what we have and take it forward. And I think that's kind of our job here in this generation, that we have access to these tools in this time. So it's a real honor to have you. It's a privilege for all of us to have you in this community. You've already contributed so much. And maybe that's a good place to wrap it for today. It's a delight. Thank you so much for taking the time on a Sunday afternoon, and all of you for chiming in with your encouragement and support. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday or chiming in the recording if you can't make the live sessions. Thank you all.
Thank you
Bye
all.
bye now. I'll go breathe and try to get well by Thursday.
Uh,
Thank you now. Bye.